The first thing we try to define how qi was defined. If you look at the China in ancient time, you see the words of qi is actually written this way. But these words are actually constructed by two words. In Chinese language, Chinese symbol, it's very easy to put the two symbols together and become a new meanings. So in order to interpret these words, because these ancient words of qi, if you go to find Chinese dictionary, you find these words, they say this one equivalent to this qi. So this word is more commonly recognized today, but these are ancient words. So let's try to trace back what the ancient time, how we talk about qi. So this qi, if you divide it, you can see it become these two words. But eventually, you take a look, this one is mean nothing. Chinese called wu. This is fire. It'll be amazed to you, right? Why ancient time Chinese create the meaning say no fire? The qi means no fire. How can it be? So from here, you have to understand the concept in ancient time. Remember, the longest history of a Qigong is actually a Chinese medical Qigong. Because medical Qigong has been existing for 4,000 years. So the 4,000 years, of course, their main purpose is for healing, for sickness prevention. You should understand Chinese emphasize a lot of sickness prevention. This is more than the Western society. The Chinese always have a theory or philosophy. Before it happened, prevent it from happening. At the same time, the Western concept in the past is wait until it's happened, we find the cure of it. So this concept is just very different because the reason that's why Chinese allow the Qigong exercise is for prevention. It's not for healing. But the Western exercise, a lot of time, Western healing is the concept was different. But today, let's start changing this concept now. Okay. Now, from here, you try to understand Chinese concept. Chinese philosophy heavily influenced by the philosophy of yin and yang. In the body, you can divide it, the yin side and the yang side. So if the yang side, it consider this a physical body. Yin side, consider qi body. This is a physical. So this one you can see, this one you can only feel. Remember, this is a material or this is the inner side. Chinese believe every part of your body is alive. When it's alive, you requires a specific amount of qi to supply its function. When this energy loses balance, then physical defect can be derived, can be generated. So because the reason is very important what kind of qi levels to supply each individual organ, for example, or cell, even cell, has to be correct. If it's not correct, then cancer cell can be developed and the physical damage can be developed. Okay. If there's no difference, for example, I give you a very simple example. If this is an electric fan, then this electric fan, you need electricity supplied to maintain the fan's function. Remember, fan is considered yang side. Electricity considered yin side. If I give you an example, if this fan, if you give a fan 10 ampere of the electricity, then fan can turn and last for a long, long time. That may have a longevities. Now, if I use the fans, I use a 15 ampere. Now you can see the fan is going to turn faster and faster and faster. Doesn't mean this is too young. Because sufficient, too much. But of course the fan will turn faster and faster and faster. What happened? It starts to overheat. Then it breaks down. So this one on fire. Then you say, okay, in this case, why don't I turn to the 5 ampere? Okay, you can turn to 5 ampere. What happened? The fan becomes sluggish. When it becomes sluggish now, again, electricity, you pour in, then you generate heat again. This is on fire. So it doesn't matter, it's too much or too little. It generates the fire of the body. People always ask me why. Just give you another example. You know, if you drive 55 miles an hour, the gasoline consumption is the minimum. Doesn't mean you don't need so much of a gasoline. If you go under 55 miles an hour, actually the gasoline consumption going up when you drive. If you're going up over 55 miles an hour, again, the consumption of gasoline going up, the engine on fire. So that means you want to maintain engine, the best condition for the engine and last for a long time is 55 miles an hour. The same thing in the body, have the same kind of characteristic or same kind of a situation. So because the reason Chinese, the ancient time, they're looking for the way of a no fire because the 10 ampere is no fire. So it becomes a very important part of Chinese acupuncture concept. When you find out the qi is deficient, they bring back to the normal state. When they think about qi is too much, then bring it down. So in this case, there's no physical defect can be happening. So this is a very important concept in ancient time, you should understand. So there's a medical Qigong, go back to a long time ago. Then later, through the study, and China start realize now, a lot of the qi situation, they really controlled by your emotion. When you're emotionally, you get disturbed, then the qi status or situation in the body, you change. For example, you're too happy, you're excited, the heart beat faster. It can cause heart attack. That means the heart channels energy going up. Not only that, your breathing becomes faster and faster. Again, the lung energy going up. You depressed, also you get anger. You are angry, then the liver energy get disturbed. So because the reason Chinese start realize entire body's energy functions or energy distribution and situations all depends on emotion. They become the second big schools of Qigong study. It's a scholar Qigong. You look at scholar Qigong, main thing comes from professional or scholarly Taoism and Confucianism. All they talk about is keep your mind peaceful and harmony. Once you keep your mind in the peaceful and harmony states, then the qi you maintain is peaceful and harmony situations. Once this mind disturbed, then everything disturbed. So when they meditate, they are searching for the peaceful mind. That's become a very important part of the scholar Qigong. Then it was not until the Chinese East Han Dynasty, that's about 2,000 years ago, then the religious Qigong gets started. The religious Qigong actually imported from the India. You know, the Buddhism. When Buddhism entered China, and China started to get heavily influenced by Buddhism. Okay, you should understand by this time. Let me try to explain very easily for this part. The first one, try to understand China's geographic structure in that area. So, if this is China, then you can see there's a Mongolia, there's a Manchuria, there's a Japan, there's a Korea, there's a Taiwan, there's a Afghanistan, Pakistan in this area. Remember, China is called 中国. 中国 that means central country. Why you mean China called central country? Chinese don't call ourselves central country. Because the Chinese have 7,000 years of history, 7,000 years of culture. But all the neighbor countries, look at them, look at their culture, about 2,000 to 3,000 years. There's many thousand years of difference. Because this reason, at that time, in ancient time, all this culture, they come to China to learn, to study Chinese culture. That's why it's called central country. Because this name was given by the neighbor country. All right, then later, you will see this part is what? This Himalaya. This one place completely separate from China for a long time. Also have 7,000 years of history. What's that? You can see it's India. Because that time it's not easy to cross that. Until 2,000 years ago in the Han Dynasty, through the Silk Road. Remember Silk Road, that's where the silk go to the Rome, go to Italy. That's called Silk Road at that time. Then Chinese culture started getting to the West. The same time, through this path, then Indian culture entered China. That's the beginning of Buddhism. So amazing, because Chinese, you look at Chinese history, slowly can take a look, analyze China. A lot of people don't understand Chinese. But if you don't understand Chinese, try to trace back. Of course, Chinese a lot of battles, a lot of wars. But you look at China. China, all the time, Chinese history, it promotes the love and peace and harmony of the universe. You look at Chinese philosophy. What the Chinese people worship about is this a scholarship. But at the same time, China is so worried about what? About those races. The Mongolia, they're trying to invade China. Manchuria, and all these tribes there. At the same time, they want to learn from Chinese culture. The other way, they want to conquer it. But eventually, you look at Chinese history, Chinese have been conquered many times by the neighbor countries. China has been conquered by Mongolia. Remember, in Chinese history, in China itself, it never one time tried to conquer the world. Because all they love is peace and harmony. But when Mongolian conquered China, Mongolian tried to conquer all the Europe that everybody know at that time, about 800 years ago. That's why China, they built what? They built a wall, you understand? Called Great Wall. This Great Wall is around here, built over this area. The Great Wall is built is to defend, it's not to conquer people. You want to conquer people, you don't build a wall. So that's why all foreign countries, they try to invade China, they can stop by their wall. But eventually, they got through the wall. For example, Mongolian, they control China for about 300 years. The Manchurian as well. So after they conquer China, they bring it into Chinese society, become part of Chinese. You should look at Chinese history. But another thing I want to point out, because it's very important, you want to understand Chinese Qigong, you have to understand Chinese history. Without that, the historical background, it's very hard for you to understand how the Qigong developed. Right? If you go to a museum, I want you to compare. Because everywhere I travel, I went to museum. The first thing you try to realize one thing, you go to the European sections, you can see so much of a war. Almost every 20, 30 years, there's a war. The killing by the religions, all the things, all the arts you can see created by the belief and by the war. It's amazing. From there you can see, study the Western society, you can see all this war. That's why today becomes so important. Their weapon developed so advanced. But you remember, gunpowder was invented in China 800 years ago. But China never tried to use the gunpowder to conquer the world. If China wanted to conquer the world, long time ago they conquered the world because of gunpowder. China used gunpowder for fireworks to celebrate the peace and harmony. But when the West, they got this gunpowder formula, they invented a gun and cannon, then try to conquer. That's because the historical background, try to search about it and study about it. But I couldn't deny, say, okay, in China also a lot of wars as well. But the wars usually happen within China. What happened? Because whenever there's an emperor changed, their dynasty changed. Because a lot of time you have tyrants of 7,000 years, you have a lot of tyrants. When that happened, then China tried to start a revolution. There's a big riot and big war. Million people killed. But I want you to come down, take a look. You go to the museum, you look at Chinese section. What you see? Next time you go to the museum, I want you to take a look. Analyze how much of the art it's not prohibited, in the museum. They talk about the war. If you go to the Chinese section, all you see is the peace, is the nature. There's not too much you can find about the war. It's not that. If you look at Chinese history, there are 7,000 years of history. There are about 35 to 40 dynasties. That means the average, there are about 200 years peaceful time. Then there's another war, another 200 years peaceful time. The only time lasts for 200-300 years, a lot of war in China is called warring period or spring autumn periods. I'll go back to 2,300 years ago. That's the only time becomes so big at that time. So look at Chinese history, that's the time we talk so much about the war. Other than that, you look at its peace. Because at that time, it's in China divided by so many parts, controlled by all the warlords that kill each other. That's what they call warring period at that time. So because the reason you can see, when Indian Buddhism entered China, immediately because it matched with Chinese philosophy, I would call love and peace and harmony. Right away, Buddhism becomes so big because it comes from outside. Don't you have the idea? If everything from outside you appreciate, everything you develop by yourself, you downgrade it. That's a human mentality. Because everything you got it, then you don't appreciate it. Everything from outside, you say, wow, that's precious. The same thing in China. When the Indian Buddhists enter China, okay, this philosophy is better than Chinese. Is that true? If you come down and you take a look, it's the same. But how come? Because it's come from outside. See, that's a human mentality. Right? But anyway, so religious Qigong start enter China, influenced by Indians. The biggest influence is actually about 500 AD at the time by Bodhidharma. Because Bodhidharma is actually teaching the Qigong method and some of philosophy, how actually Buddhism or Buddhists train. They heavily influenced Chinese martial arts society. The reason because that time, actually he passed away in the Shaolin Temple. When he passed away in the Shaolin Temple, actually before he died, he passed down all the muscle tendon change, bone marrow washing. Because that's what heavily influenced Chinese concept of a physical body structure or physical body chi structure, how they train that and understand that, and not only that, how do you lead the chi to the brain, to nourish your brain for enlightenment, to reopen the third eyes. That kind of concept before that time was not existing. So that's why Bodhidharma may consider one of the very important person in China's Qigong history. Yeah, even though I know some Chinese want to deny it because he is not Chinese. Yeah, but that's because dignity. So that means if you summarize it, you can see there are 4 categories of Chinese Qigong in history. Medical Qigong. So when you study any Qigong, first one identify what kind of Qigong are you studying. Medical Qigong for healing. The second one is scholar Qigong for peaceful mind. The third one, religious Qigong, they want to open the third eye for spiritual enlightenment. The last one, martial Qigong. They apply the Qi into physical body to energize it to a higher energy state so they can manifest the power to higher efficiency. So become 4 categories. But today, which one is more popular, if you think about that? But I would say medical Qigong is most popular because acupuncture is second popular, actually martial art Qigong. Spiritual Qigong is hard to understand. Yeah, but I'm sorry, but this is the one I'm most interested. And then next one, the less popular is a scholar Qigong, because scholar Qigong only searching for peaceful mind through the meditation. Okay. Now, you understand the concept of Qi, that means no fire. Now, we try to see why now Qi become these words.